Welcome to the Shaolin AI podcast. We're glad to have you back. As I mentioned in the last podcast, maybe I didn't because I'm not sure what order these are coming out in. We're going to have more podcasts coming up. So I know the fans are clamoring for more, so that's what we're here to deliver. And we've got our first, this is a Shaolin AI podcast first. We've got our first returning guest. We have Marko. Welcome, Marko.
Hi guys, how's it going?
How are you doing, Marko?
I'm good. Good.
Good.
Looking forward to recording this thing.
Do you happen to have a tiny keyboard?
I do. I just got this little can you see it now?
Yeah,
Oh, there
there
it
we
is.
go.
Little macros keyboard. I like to little known fact about me, I like to collect mechanical keyboards and build them. So yeah,
Yeah,
this
add
is
that
just
to
like
the
the
Shaolin AI trivia page.
yeah.
Um, no, that's cool. I'm jealous of your keyboard setup. I just go Logitech because I'm boring.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we're here to talk about a very special topic, I guess, which is we're kind of here to talk about you, Marko. Not to put you on the spot, but we're talking about you because you are a graduate of the Shaolin AI Bootcamp,
Correct.
and as a graduate who also is now working in the industry, we kind of wanted to give the folks who maybe are contemplating doing a boot camp, or maybe they just know someone who is contemplating it, or maybe you're already a coder and you're like, hey, would a boot camp even work in 2024 in current year, right? um and we'll kind of gauge how things are from the perspective on the ground. Yeah, so you graduated from our initial cohort, which was last year, and yeah, we kind of just want to get your perspective, and we'll kind of talk about. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Shaolin AI bootcamp, but I think this is applicable to most boot camps. Although, to the extent that ours is any different, we'll try to call that out. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of curious about this myself, just because my background with learning to code was I learned a bit in my undergraduate, and then the rest of my training was essentially on the job. Like I ended up kind of being almost self-taught. But I did have mentors, I did have helpers, I did have kind of partners along the way that pointed me in the right direction. But it did take me longer than I would have hoped to kind of get competent at things. And part of the reason why I enjoy teaching is I can kind of help students fast forward some of those early learning problems with coding where like you kind of don't know where to go. But anyway, yeah, let's talk to you, Marko. So tell me, what did you do? Like, were you previously working in an office job? Were you previously a coder, or project manager, anything in tech?
So no,
Where did
I
you
never,
start?
yeah, I never had a job in tech. I so when I was about 10 years ago, I got into home remodeling, uh, mainly because I didn't have a college education, and I was like, in like the job market at that time, like everybody always wants work done on their house, and it seemed like a really easy sort of like career to get into, like with very low barrier to entry. I mean, if you want to start doing construction, it doesn't take much to like get hired, right? And I thought it would be like a way to like very quickly be able to move up, so to speak, and make a lot of money because there's a lot of money in it. So I did that. Um, I I started working as a subcontractor. I learned a bunch of, you know, skills like electrical, plumbing, etc. I like started my own little business where I did handyman stuff, and then I continued to do projects for, general contractors, etc. And also started to like build my business on the side as well and have my own projects. And I specialized in like tile and bathroom remodeling and kitchens as well. Anything that requires tile, and so that's my background, sort
Do
of
you
like that's been my
do you
that
have
was my
any before and after shots handy that
um
you could show?
yes, I mean I could probably pull some up. Um Man,
Yeah,
you put
just
me on
because I've
the
seen
spot.
some of your work
Yeah,
from before. You showed me some, and I'm always very impressed.
thank you.
Yeah,
Um Let me see what hold on.
I'm
Let me
putting you
try
on
to
the
pull some
spot.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
But in the
wasn't
meantime,
planned.
yeah, in the meantime, I can talk about yeah, that like so when I started when I was like, a few years into my company, I was doing a little bit of like, yeah, we're gonna have to edit this out because I'm sorry. Uh now I'm like off track here.
No, it's
Let me see.
fine. But
We can edit this out, right?
no, I'm keeping it in.
No, don't. Let's start over. But anyway, I was doing some work in like Excel to like keep track of clients and stuff like this. And I hated Excel. And I was just Googling one day and found out like that, you know, there's a lot of sort of data tracking that you can do using Python, so to speak, like through pandas, obviously. So I was like, oh well, and I'd always been interested in like coding and just general like IT stuff. And so I looked into it, and I ended up taking like a Code Academy like basic Python course.
Hmm,
And I was
hmm.
like, oh, this is really cool. I really enjoy this. I want to learn how to code. And so from there, I like Code Academy has like these basic, very basic like Python instruction classes.
Yeah, kind of
And
fundamentals and stuff like that.
yeah. And so I took the basic class, and then I took like the intermediate certificate class where you actually get like a certificate. And I was like, cool. I'm like a master coder now. I can do
Yeah,
anything. And then I was like, okay, well, let's see what I can do with this. And it was basically nothing,
yeah.
because like
You're
now I understood the fundamentals of Python, but I didn't know how to sort of take it to the next level.
right.
And
I actually, I think I did the same course probably back in the day.
well, yeah,
And yeah, like you learn some stuff, and it's valuable, and it's useful, and it's a nice little interface, but then like it doesn't tell you how this connects to real life in any
right,
way.
yeah,
It's purely just like, this is a for loop, this is a function.
exactly.
Good luck, mother effer. Like that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
like so there's like, here's like your fundamental basic Python stuff, right? And then
mhm.
here is sort of where you have a job actually using these things, or you can use them in like a practical application, right? And sort of
Yeah,
this space in between is what I was missing. So how do I get from, I know the basics, I want to have a job in coding eventually, I want to switch careers, but how do I get from here? And um it was very difficult to, like, I wasn't able to. So then life sort of gets in the way, and then you find you don't have the time to like kind of do that without any kind of structure. Like it's very hard to be self-disciplined enough to like figure those things out on your own. And that's why I feel a sort of like a boot camp comes in handy, because you'll have an instructor, or who would have like the experience to tell you, these are the next steps you need to take, right? and
yeah,
and here's how you can grow what you already have in the fundamentals and put them into practical use. And somebody, especially for me, it was difficult because, like I said, I've never had a sort of like a traditional office job.
hmm,
And so the transition, you know well, where do I go about, how do I apply for this kind of job? What are they looking for in this kind of job? Will I even be able to get a job?
Yeah.
Based on the fact that I have no actual work experience in this. Now, like I can know how to code, but if I can't prove that to somebody like a recruiter, how are they gonna you know
Yeah. And
respond?
kind of a boot camp is like a non-traditional approach, right? And so most people, it's like if you're going to get into coding or data science, you're either getting a CS degree or a CS masters, and then you're just getting hired somewhere, and they train you up on all the like, hey, this
Right.
is Jira, this is that, they
Yeah.
give you all the business side of stuff, and they kind of trust the system, and have that pipeline built in. Whereas you don't have that same pipeline with a boot camp. And or and if it's not a computer science degree, maybe it's a stats degree or whatever. um but even then, like those, I feel like my familiarity with kind of higher education and stuff, like those degrees don't really prep you for a job either. It's just that they're built into the system, that it makes it easier to be like, well, yes, I am a recent graduate of the degree that you're supposed to have for this job, and so people are like, I guess you're good. and
Yeah,
uh
exactly. Exactly.
and coming from the industry, like we'd hire a lot of people like that, and they were sometimes not very good.
Right.
Because like they've never done anything real in their lives, and so like you're like, hey, have you ever done this or that, and they're like, nope, never even heard of it. And it's like, well, so why are we hiring you?
Yeah.
um and so yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, I obviously, I had a linguistics degree and a background in NLP, so I had my little niche, but I was missing like a lot of stuff that I had to self-teach as well. And I remember feeling lost, and then finally being able to have like, um I was in a couple job positions where research was part of my job, so I was allowed to just kind of do a bunch of research that I had to figure out on my own. And the benefit of Shaolin AI is a lot of that research now just gets taught to you and handed down, for free, which is cool. Stuff of like, this is what people use, and this is what
Yeah.
is actually good. This does not work. Like, all that type of learning that I've done over my career is just built into the course now. Um, so you were you like not happy remodeling stuff, or why'd you end up wanting to kind of make the full switch other than just kind of enjoying it a bit?
Well, yeah, I liked the job that the career that I had of
Yeah,
like,
pretty successful, right? Like not like you
yeah,
were
very
struggling or
much so.
anything.
No, no, not at all. And I think it's a very good skill to have. Another big reason that I sort of went down that path is also because uh I feel like it's important for, so like, especially nowadays, like nobody knows how to fix anything in their own home. And I didn't like, I wanted to have like a basic understanding sort of how if anything ever happened, because like back in like the, I don't know, even like the 90s and probably 80s and obviously before that, like your dad or whoever like could pretty much fix a bunch of stuff in your house on his own, or
Yeah.
like he would work on projects. That doesn't really exist anymore. Now everybody just hires someone. And I sort of wanted to have those basic fundamentals. So I learned a lot. Obviously I can do pretty much
Well,
anything in the
speaking
house.
of that, there's kind of like in the realm of education and getting a job, there are voices out there like, I think of the dirty jobs guy, Mike Rowe, who's like,
Yeah,
never do college, never do whatever,
sure.
and go be a plumber, and that's the way to success. um
And it can be. I mean, it definitely
yeah,
can be.
for sure. But I also, like, I think I have some like uncles and like some people who have worked in trades, and I have some friends who have worked in trades their whole lives. And the thing I've noticed is, unless you parlay it into like a full on company where you're the manager now, um you kind of run out, like these physical jobs are physical, and you kind of
Yes,
run out of steam at a certain point too, right?
you do. You destroy your body
Hmm.
in multiple ways, like your knees, your and then also like the dust and all the stuff that you're breathing in every day. Long term, probably not good. And like you said, so that when you do this type of work, there's two options. You could be a subcontractor,
Hmm.
and if that and so basically, which I've done a lot of work as, where you find a GC, a general contractor who finds jobs, and then he just pays you to do the job. But if you do that, then obviously your salary is capped. There's only so much money you can make doing that. The other route would be to be the GC
Hmm.
and you find the jobs, but then you have to constantly worry about, oh, am I going to have enough work? Is this too much work? Will I be able to get these done in time? Then people are calling you at all hours of the night because, like, it could be Sunday night at 9 o'clock, something
Hmm.
that was part of your project is leaking, and you have to leave your house and go fix it. Like, you have to, you don't
Yeah.
have a choice because it's your work. You have to stand by it.
Right.
Right.
And you could maybe join one of those like commercial companies or something, but then once again, your salary's kind of capped at
Yeah, for sure.
whatever
You're
they
not
decide
making
to give you a
anywhere,
salary as.
you won't
Yeah.
ever be making what you should be,
Right.
for the
Not
work that you're
none of
doing.
those millionaire plumbers are doing that,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. Those guys are, they're general contractors essentially. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They're taking on big jobs and they're paying the little guy to do,
And there's
the
probably
work,
like there
right?
probably is a decent amount of upside, but there's also a decent amount of risk, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like, you won't have any quality of life. Like,
Uh-huh.
you'll be working all the time. It's
Hmm.
like similar to like if you own a restaurant, like you're always going to be working. You know what I mean? You're going to be so the point is, yeah, I mean, I liked it. I as I start to like get older and you know what I mean, my body is not, it's definitely a young man's game if you're going to be doing the physical work all the time. And if you're going to be doing the other side, the GC work, like sort of the office and logistical work, then you're not going to have any free time for yourself or your family. So
Right.
I wanted to get into something that I enjoy, which is coding or analytics, data science. Like, I find it super fascinating and even fun. Like, I've always liked um, the sort of analyzing anything and trying to find reasons of why things are the way they are. Right. I've always found that
Hmm.
super intriguing and fun. And so this is the perfect thing for that. Right. Obviously.
Yeah.
And to get paid to do it is like, well, that's like a dream, right? Like, for me, like
Well,
if
yeah,
I'm doing
and
something that I like.
I
Yeah.
think, you can never work from home as a
Oh
contractor,
no.
right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, again, unless you're like a GC
Yeah,
who's
maybe
just,
then.
but then you still got to go drive and you got to give estimates, and then you telling people, oh, you should do this and this, and you waste a lot of time because you're not going
Hmm.
to get a job that you bid, right?
Right.
And or sometimes you'll spend all this time bidding a job and like you're trying to help people, like, oh, well, you could save money if you did this, this, and this, and they're like, oh, cool. And then you find out like 2 months later that they hired somebody else and did exactly what you told them to do. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? And then they hired somebody else and they did that, but they didn't do it right. And then now they want it fixed, and they're like, well, I told you. So you get into stuff like that, and that's neither here nor there. But the point is,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So I wanted to sort of switch to something where I could have do something less physical, something I enjoy, and still have the quality of life that I wanted. Right.
Yeah, so you did you attempted it solo, right?
Mm-hmm.
You learned a bit, but you didn't necessarily feel like you were ready to transition or whatever. But so how did you end up seeking out a boot camp?
Right. So actually, someone had told me about Shaolin AI, that it was like a new boot camp that was getting started here. And I was like, okay, well, I'll look into it. And it happened to be like just like a month before the cohort was going to start. And I was like, I was at it had been, so when I had gotten my certificate like 3 years prior, about and yeah, it was 3 or 4 years. and I was like, man, I had put all this time into this, and I wanted to keep going, but I didn't have the direction. And I was like, this could be really life changing. Like, if I join this boot camp and I just do it, it could be like, the thing I need to actually, get out of this, what I'm doing, and switch careers, like, for good. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And what I found appealing specifically about Shaolin AI was, for one, the class sizes are like generally smaller. Like, you can find these boot camps on whatever. There's a bunch out there, but the class sizes are like 30 plus people. And it's
Mhm.
like, it's hard. I feel like it's, if you get stuck on
Or even
something,
hundreds of people.
right, or yeah, right. Like, that's what I'm like, the smallest I found was 30. So, or
Mm.
30, or like maybe it was 50. I don't remember. But I feel like it's hard to sort of like build a connection with your classmates, or like even have that like sort of focus with that many people. I mean, it's basically you're just attending lectures at that point, right? Because it's
Hmm.
hard to, there's not going to be time. And this I feel is true for any class, like any type of class you take. The smaller the class size, the more one-on-one you can have and mentorship you can have with your instructor, right? So that was one thing. Another big thing was, it was like significantly less expensive than your average boot camp, which, um that's obviously big too. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
you, looking at the curriculum, you get like all the same sort of things that you would in a traditional data science boot camp, maybe even more, because it goes into visualizations and stuff like that. But it was less expensive than a lot of the others. Like, you see some of them are like, I don't know, over $12,000. You know what I mean? For the
Yeah,
same
most are
amount of time.
double, close to double our price.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah.
So
Which
look, I'm a
that's
sucker
the
for a
plan,
good
to keep
deal.
it there. Hey, yeah. A
You know what I
good.
mean? So yeah, and I was able to speak to Zach, to
Hmm.
you, and
That's me.
sort of laid it out to me, what it was. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, it seemed like a good fit. So I was like, let's do it. And I took the plunge and I did it. And it was, and it's
So
been
I have a
great.
question. Like, prior to starting, what were your main thoughts or concerns? Like, before
Okay.
it kicked off. Like, let's say you're like, okay, I'm gonna sign up. I feel good about it, but like you're waiting for the start day to arrive. What's going through your head?
A few things.
And I ask
For
this because
one,
I've never been on this side of it. Like, I know from
yeah,
the teaching perspective how I feel, and especially like my first class I taught, I was super nervous. But
yeah,
I've now taught a lot. I'm less nervous. But anyway.
yeah. Well, anything is sort of, can feel scary if it's new, right?
Uh-huh.
um you're used to the things that you become sort of comfortable with. Okay, well, I know how to do this and that. And so it can be intimidating to start, like, especially something like as grueling as a boot camp. It's I mean, it's no joke. It's like a real commitment, a real time commitment. And sort of like, um yeah, it's a lot of work.
Hmm.
We'll say that, right?
Did you
Which
quit your job prior to taking the class?
No, no,
Okay.
I didn't quit my job. Yeah, well,
So
I mean, I still have,
you can do it concurrently, but you're doing a lot of work.
yeah, yeah. And that's fine, right? But I wasn't so scared about the time and the work. I was more concerned about maybe like failing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like,
Mm,
being like, I can't do it,
like, too
or
hard.
right, like it's
Well, yeah,
too
because I
hard.
mean, it's a AI and machine learning boot camp, which to a lot of people probably seems like out of the realm of normal people, right?
Right. Well, it's a black box. Like,
Yeah.
everybody knows, like, AI is like, we see it now, and even more now than when I started the boot camp.
Hmm.
Like, AI is everywhere. There has been like an explosion in the last, sort of
Yeah.
like year or two, where everything is AI. I mean, and we saw AI before, but like not in the same way. And so I'm like, and it's obviously a black box. Like, not a lot of people really know what they're looking at. when they're or what they're dealing with. And
Hmm.
so I was like, man, like, this is a lot. I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to commit all this time and stuff. And also I was scared, like, well, what if I commit the time and the money and I don't get anything out of it? That was another thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I don't have a college degree.
Hmm.
Um, and so I didn't want to be like, okay, I'm going to spend all this time and, and the money and do a boot camp and then not get hired because I don't have a bachelor's or a master's. And then
Yep.
so now I took the boot camp, and then now I got to go back to college anyway, and I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to have the time to do that right now because that's like a 4 year
And I
course.
mean, I don't know. I feel like past year plus, there's kind of been a cooling in the job market for sure. Like there was kind of a boom early COVID where
Yeah,
everybody started hiring remote, but then probably some companies overhired or whatever.
sure.
So yeah, I bet a lot of people are kind of concerned, like, hey, isn't the job market not so great right now? And stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense as a concern. So once the class started, what did you think? What was your experience? Um, yeah, just thoughts on, once the class got underway, where were you at?
Um.
Like, what's the
So
student's
once,
perspective?
yeah. So the first day I was super, like, really nervous. Not just because of the class, but also because I I'm not used to sort of interacting with people that I don't know. Let's put it like, no, I mean, outside of like my professional setting, obviously
Well, and
I
you
was
haven't been in school in
exactly.
however
Yeah.
long. Yeah.
Like in a professional setting, I'm fine with it. Like I can speak to clients and talk to people like that because that's sort of like my job and I'm good at doing my job. But like when it comes to like having to, deal with maybe classmates or teachers I didn't know, it was like a little bit like weird, at first. But then after like the first two classes, everyone was super cool. I mean, everyone was sort of like we're all in the same boat. You know what I mean? Like nobody kind of
Yeah.
knows. And even
Some
if we
some
have,
camaraderie, friendships
yeah, and
with
that's
your
what's so cool
classmates.
about like the cooler classes is that you have the opportunity for that.
Hmm.
And so I was nervous about, okay, well, what are these other people going to be like? But everyone was super cool. We all became friends by the end of it, kind of, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I've kept in touch with a bunch of the guys. Um, that was one thing. Another thing was like starting out, we went over the whole curriculum and again, it seemed like a lot, but one of your main takeaways or like one of the things that you really sort of tried to drive in was like if you just show, there's going to be times where you don't understand stuff, you're going to get frustrated, be prepared to suck. I remember that's literally what it says on the website.
Yeah, that's one of
And
my maxims.
yeah, but the most important thing is just show up to class, just show up every day, just show up, pay, when you're here, just try to pay attention as you know what I mean. Obviously things can come up or you might miss a day or two, but like if you do, just go back, watch the recording, show up every day, and you'll be surprised at like how much you'll pick up just from that. And
Yeah.
that is 100% true. um that is like the main thing, like again, and I tell like the new students and stuff like there's gonna be times where you're looking at the stuff and you have no idea what is you're like looking at, or you'll feel like, oh, why can't I remember how to do this? But the way that the class is structured is we start with this little bit here, and
Hmm.
as the weeks progress we sort of like build on top of those things. So this thing here that you didn't understand what you were doing or why or how, or don't remember how to do it, by the time we get like a couple of weeks in, you've done this little thing so many times that I mean, you're like, oh well, yeah, I know exactly what this is.
Hmm.
You could tell me like uh, you got to read in your CSV file, and I remember the first week I was like, what the hell, we just did
Yeah.
this, but I don't know what the hell that even means. right?
Yes.
Now it's like you by week like 4, probably you're like, okay, you do it real quick without even thinking, because you've been sort of training, and that's like what a boot camp is, right? It's training. It's
Yeah.
sort of like reinforcing these through like repetition,
Mhm.
reinforcing these ideas in your mind, and how to sort of learn how to do these
Yeah.
things.
And on the instructor side, I see students who are like, "Man, I just feel like I'm not getting it." And I'm like, "Did like your last project you like built a machine learning model like
Yeah.
using deep learning on your own custom data set? Like what are you talking about? You're not getting it. Like you're doing it. Like
Yeah.
what do you mean?" But yeah, so like I definitely think the progress is slow and incremental, but you do learn and grow very quickly. So
Oh,
yeah,
it's
it's
insane.
funny.
Even like from the beginning to project one, which is only,
Mhm,
a third of the way in, like looking back at what I built with my project, which was a stats dashboard.
mhm.
Um, I mean, it was amazing, and I was so proud. You know what I mean? Like, of what I did. I
Yeah,
felt
and
so.
speaking of which, from my side, why are we talking to Marko as opposed to any of the other graduates? One of the reasons is, and no offense, but on paper, you probably had the worst resume for doing a career
Yes,
switch, right? Like you had
absolutely.
no relevant experience, not even office experience, really, right?
No. I
Which like
did
at
work.
least you could
I
say,
did work. Uh, I was gonna say I did work for my when I was like 20 for my girlfriend's dad, who owned a trucking company, and I
okay.
worked in Excel there. That was that was 15 years ago. But yeah, that was my
No, and I mean, I'm
that's
not
my
even trying to say like not that you didn't have any good skills or transferable abilities or
no, you're
whatever,
I mean, you're absolutely right.
but just
I
on
never worked
paper, like if you just said, "Okay, I remodel bathrooms and kitchens,
right.
and now I want to work in data science," like there's no direct line there.
No,
There's no easy explanation as to why this would make sense for a company. Um, but the other side of why you're here is even from the first homework, I was like, Marko, you're doing too much work. I was like, you're working too hard on this stuff. Like the first homework is basically designed to be like a throwaway, make sure you understand what GitHub is. That's it. And but your like first project was like but head and shoulders above anyone else's. No offense to the other guys, but it was. Uh and uh and then like even your first project as well was just like fully formed, made a lot of sense and like so you but that being said, like you put in the work, and I know you worked a lot outside of class, but I mean
I
you
did.
also you had a job, you have a family, like it's not like you were doing it 24/7 necessarily, but you did put in the effort to say, hey, I'm doing this for real, not like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
I'm
that's
just kind
very
of
important too.
putting half
And
effort and yeah.
so if I could talk to that for a
Yeah.
second, like you said this again, and like all this stuff comes in the little, pre-work package or whatever. It's like, or on the website.
Yeah.
You'll get out of it what you put in. And that is another very important, that's like key. You know what I mean? The boot camp is very well formed and it teaches you everything, but you are expected to practice, these concepts a little bit, through the homework or even in your free time if you can, to really, nail them in. Yeah. And to your point, since I knew that I was probably the least qualified to get a job in this field, I wanted to make sure that I was the best, so to speak. Like I was like, you know what, I'm not just gonna like phone this in and just do the homework one is just a stupid little GitHub thing. No, like I want it to be the best. I want to stand out. I want my thing to be the best because I know that when the time comes to apply for a job, I'm the guy that's going to be struggling the most to get it. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to want to look at me and be like, oh yeah, this is the home remodeler guy. Yeah, let's bring him in to do data. And like, no, for me, I need to prove it more than anyone, maybe, that I understand what I'm doing and I'm good at it. So that was important to me. And I did put a lot of time into everything. And also like beyond that, I enjoyed what I was doing. I was having fun. And in
Yeah,
the
we try to
homeworks,
avoid busy work as much as
yeah.
possible.
And so in the homeworks and in the projects, I was like, this is great, man. Like I want to do this for a living. This is fun. I'm enjoying it. And so it wasn't although I was putting in a lot of work and a lot of hours into these things, like you said, beyond what I probably had to, it didn't feel like work, or it didn't feel like um, you know, tedious, like I was toiling. It felt like I was, I was doing something that mattered and that was fun. So, and then the reward of sort of looking back and seeing what I had done was just awesome, and like the pride of like being able to show my project to somebody. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. No, and yeah, I thought all your projects were great. All your homeworks, you did a great job. Hold on one
Thank you.
second. My son came in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sent you the pictures of the
Where'd you send
before
them?
and after pictures of a remodel job, by the way,
Where are they?
in Discord.
Huh. They're not showing up.
Oh, did I not send them? I never sent them. They're just floating in my, yeah.
Maybe I'll just cut it. I'll edit them in.
Yeah.
Um,
Like take
cool.
out the whole part where I'm like struggling to sign in to
No,
my
yeah, I'll
thing
cut out that in this.
and
We're
put
good.
this and be like, yeah, I found it right away. It's here.
All right. Continuing.
Yes.
So basically, yeah, you went through the course, you did a good job, you stuck with it. Um and I like you mentioned, like, some of the guys maybe did not dedicate as much time to it. Even those guys ended up kind of being able to get jobs. So
Yeah, sure.
um so yeah, even if you don't put all the work in, you still have opportunities from the boot camp. But speaking of which, how was the job search for you? Uh, how long would you say it took, and
Yeah.
how did it go?
So I started looking for a job probably mid-January um of 2024. And I had putting it off because I was like really dreading the rejection, sort of like and thinking like I was a bit anxious about it. Let's put it like that. Like I was like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, this is it. We're gonna see if this actually, works or not. And if I'm actually and I was scared. I hadn't, obviously I haven't interviewed. I don't think I've interviewed for a job in over 15 years because I've just worked for myself and I've been fine with that, or like if I was doing subcontractor work, I would just go and be like, yeah, I can do this. And then just like, it's obviously different. Like there's not like a traditional hiring process with that kind of stuff. Like you just show them your work and just do the work. They don't care, about your background that much, as long as they care about your work, which is, you know, so I haven't had to like sort of go through the whole interviewing and hiring process in a very long time. And so I was a little bit not scared of that, but like, just I didn't know what to expect. So in mid-January, I started applying and I just applied to like most of the jobs. I was looking for like either an analytics job or a data science job. And I was applying, and um I was actually shocked because I wasn't expecting to get many calls, but I applied to a bunch of jobs and I was getting like responses, uh, like almost at least once or twice a week. You know what I mean? Which from what I had heard, it was like it's like, nearly, you got the ratio of like applying to actually getting callbacks was very low, but I was succeeding. And so I did a couple like phone interviews and stuff, and um a couple, nothing really came out of that. But I just looked at it as like a learning experience to like know sort of what kind of questions to expect, until I finally found one place, and I did the call, the screening interview, and that went well. And then I did like a second sort of I guess you could call it a technical interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that went well. And I went on to the final interview where I got to meet go into the office and sort of meet the other people, and I feel I did very well there. And they ended up extending a job offer to me. And
Very
so
nice.
from the middle of January to when I got the job offer, which was third week of March. So
Mm-hmm.
that's I guess
Yeah.
like 2 months. 2 months. And dude, I was so happy because um I was like, well, I'm gonna try this, and maybe I'll get a job by the end of the summer. 6 months. I was expecting 6 months looking for a
Yeah, and I
job.
probably
And
had
that's
quoted 3 to 6 months.
yeah, and that was like, really applying and like looking, and what I mean, like not just applying once a day, but like, sending out applications and doing the whole thing, working on my resume. I did have some help with my resume because that was part of the Shaolin AI thing. So that helped me a
Mm-hmm.
lot because, again, I hadn't written a resume, and I didn't need a resume for
Yeah.
the last like, over 10 years.
Yeah, and obviously we have some career services available, and
Yeah, resources.
we try to help. And as far as for those who are curious, like boot camps report their statistics based on 6 months post graduation, and so that's usually what's offered by most boot camps. Now, having worked in other uh or just being aware of the industry, most people are very well, most of what gets offered in the terms of career services is a joke. And what we
Yeah.
try to do is give real advice and help. Um, and we're hoping to actually build some more relationships and pipelines so that we can say, hey, just go work here, but we're still building that. But still, what we offer is at least comparable to what major boot camps are offering, and actually I would say better, because
Yeah,
a
and I
lot
feel
of
that's
what
also
other people I've known who've graduated from boot camps, they go to their career counselor, and the career counselor says, maybe they help organize or they send them a resume template, and then they say go search on Indeed, and that's your career services. So yeah.
also a couple things to add on to that. I feel like a big part of that is, again, because of like the each class size is smaller, so there's like more time to like focus on each student, rather than if you're in a class of 100 people, like, the
Mm-hmm.
time just isn't there to help
Right, and
each
our
individual.
instructors, me and others, work in the industry, so we know what employers are looking for. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is, a lot of boot camps this is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot of boot camps will offer like job placement, but then
Hmm.
you're expected to pay them a percentage of your salary for like 2 years,
Yeah.
which you know that's a lot of money, you know.
Yeah.
uh I think it was like the one I was looking at was like something like 10% or something like that of your salary
Oh
for like
wow,
2 years, which is, I mean, that's a lot.
it's a lot.
That's a
Yeah.
lot. So you're paying for the boot camp, and then you're like sort of like, now you're on the hook for
Yeah, some
if
of
you
them you
get.
only pay on the back end, but yeah, it can be scary for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, again, that's that's assuming you get a job, right? So
yes.
within so it's something like they'll try to get you a job within the first 6 months after the course, but then you're on the hook with them for a percentage of your salary
Yeah.
um for like a year or two or something like that. So
Yeah, and Shaolin, your money is yours. So
yeah, yours to keep.
um But yeah, maybe I think maybe we'll talk about kind of the job market and outlook and stuff like that on another episode. Because I
Yeah,
feel like that's a whole nother topic, that we could get
sure.
into. But I think what you covered, one, there is some effort involved in applying for jobs. It does take a bit of time, but there are jobs out there. And like I said, Marko may have been the worst on paper, but um, you know, you were getting calls, you were getting interviews. I was keeping in touch and hearing about each one, so it
Yes.
was cool um to hear. And honestly, like, you probably could have ended up with multiple offers if you kept searching. I would assume.
Yeah.
But you found a really cool opportunity, so that's awesome.
Yeah, so
And
the place I felt felt like or the place I found that they ended up
mhm.
extending me job offers felt like a really good fit for me. It felt perfect, and it's like that's another thing that you always said, like when you find the right job, it'll be it's the one that's meant
Yeah.
to be, right? And
Yeah, and I've
that's
always said a lot of people see job interviews as like trying to trick the employer into giving you a job, but
yeah,
in an ideal situation, it's mutually beneficial.
right,
It's
right,
good for you and them.
yeah.
Um, and I assume as you found, have you had any imposter syndrome as you've started working in the industry, or are you
Um, no,
confident in
uh,
your skills?
I'm
How has
very
the boot
confident in
camp
my
helped you?
skills. The boot camp helped me tremendously. First of all, I think a lot of like their interest, a big part of their interest in me was based on projects that I had developed skills for through the boot camp because I had some be so my position is that I'm a data analyst, but they were interested in some of like the NLP skills that I picked up from the class, right?
Hmm.
As they sort of um are looking into those types of things, within the company. So I thought that, I mean, definitely it was brought up in my interview, one of my projects, the NLP project that I did. And I
That's
think that that
awesome.
was a big help. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, and just a note on that, our projects aren't like other boot camps where a lot of boot camps will give you a canned project and it's just like fill in the
right,
blanks. Which is good and you don't have to think about it, but it's also bad because you don't really have anything to say about it other than like it's just like classwork. Whereas our projects are really designed to be like an end-to-end data science project that you would do if you were like at a company. And so they're really one-to-one with job experience. So I'm glad to hear that your project was actually like looked at in the interview, because that's exactly how they're designed to be.
for sure. And especially since, once again, I don't have like IT or office work experience. The project is what they're looking at for me, right?
Hmm.
So, because it shows what I can do and what I know. Um, Apart from that, no, but to answer the original question, yeah, I mean, I've learned so much from the boot camp. Beyond the machine learning, we go into SQL and stuff like that, which is stuff that I'm going to be doing in my job here. That actually they're going to be training they're going to be training us in SQL, and I'm like, oh well, that's something I already know how to do. You know what I mean? So that
Yeah,
was kind of
yeah,
cool. That was really cool. A lot of the other guys, they the other analysts, they're very good at the things that they know that we've learned that they've learned from the company, but stuff like SQL and stuff like and beyond that, they haven't been formally trained in yet. So the fact that I'm coming in here like knowing SQL code and knowing like basically the basic queries that we'll be doing is it feels great. You know what I mean?
yeah. You got a leg up a bit.
Um, yeah, and
Yeah, we
so
probably
yeah,
teach
I
you
mean
too
it's
much at the boot camp.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're too prepared. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we'll probably end it here. But anything you would like in hindsight you would tell yourself um prior to starting the boot camp or thinking about doing a boot camp?
I would probably, I mean, first of all, I'd be like, relax, it's gonna be fine. you know. But I would say, yeah, like I used to get really hung up on just like I would get that feeling of I'm not getting it, like that you brought up, like that people would say, you know what I mean? I just don't
Uh-huh.
get it. I don't get it. This is like too much. But again, like the way that the boot camp is structured is that each class builds, or each sort of what would you call it, module, I guess,
Yeah, yeah,
builds
yeah.
on on the prior one. So while it may feel very, very overwhelming at first, as we go on and we do these things over and over, you're like, this is I know this. You just got to hang in there, and again, be prepared to suck, be prepared to feel dumb at times, or like you're not getting it, but like it's just like anything else. Like you're not gonna what you're learning is new, and the more you do it, the more you'll learn, and you'll by the end of it, you're like, I know all this stuff. I know how to the model life cycle, or things like that you've done it so many times that it's just part of your way of thinking, I guess, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Um, so yeah, just hang in there. That's what I tell myself. You'll be
Hang in there.
fine.
We get that little cat poster
Yeah.
and we're good to go.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like anything from your prior work experience is applicable, surprisingly?
Um, hmm. I guess to the boot camp.
No, to working in data science and stuff.
Um,
Should we put all data scientists in a in a construction site?
in a
Have them
construction a
learn a
construction
thing or
boot camp.
two. Probably just
Um,
discipline, right? I don't know. Like
yeah, I would say that, like, if you can
maybe it's nothing.
handle if you can handle large scale construction projects, um, you can probably work in an office.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's a lot more stressful working
Mm.
in construction, I'd say, and physically demanding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but that's not to I mean, so this is here's the thing. That's not to say that like the other job is easy, um
It's
because you're
just it's
still it's
different
a different type
challenges.
of work. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like it's a lot more mental. And then again, that's not to say that you have that like any dummy can do construction, because there's a lot of math and planning involved in that as well, right?
Yeah,
But
I can't cut an angle correctly at all.
right, like
I'm so bad
right.
at a speed square.
No, yeah, like angles like the fact that with construction you sort of have to be able to have a mental image of how everything's going to be at the end, because every step is so important, and it's fully dependent on the step before it, right? So you have to that's it's not easy either, and it's not like any dummy can do it, but I'd say as far as like transferable skills, mainly just keeping track of like where I am on a project, and being able to see it through, and um yeah, I mean, you know, I guess I mean, I can't really think of anything else.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was just curious because definitely a big jump between the careers. So,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
good to hear. But yeah, so thanks for telling your story. I'm super excited for you, and I'm glad that you've been
Thank you.
able to kind of achieve your goals. And you're not the only one who's gotten a job from Shaolin AI. There's others, and you can kind of come from any background, um, but yeah, I'm glad that yeah, like I said, you've achieved your goals. You I think you're gonna do great things, like just based off of like your work you were able to do. I think anybody would be lucky to hire you on any type of team. So
Thank you very
so
much.
that's good.
That's nice of you to say.
Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, so
I am very proud of what I've done, and I've said this before, but you've helped me a lot with the boot camp, and just with your sort of focus on, you motivated me to to just keep plugging through, and don't get discouraged if I don't get hired immediately, and you know what I mean. And if I don't get, and you were a huge help, and I really, I owe it all to Shaolin. And that, I'm not just saying, I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah, I remember.
There was no way I was going to get a job. There's no way I was going to get just switch careers, on a whim, without coming to the boot camp. So
I'm thinking back to your final project, and I gave you some feedback, and you were like very upset because it wasn't necessarily all positive, and you were.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, that was funny. But any parting words of wisdom, or any haikus or philosophy to share? I'm gonna ask this at the end of every episode now. I did it in the last one.
Damn. I don't know. I can't really think of anything right now. Put me on the spot here. I'd say, no, can't think of anything very philosophical to say. I say, just hang in there, like the cat on the poster.
Exactly.
Those are my words of wisdom.
Exactly. All right. Well, with that, we'll end it there. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See ya.